One more time now with the microphone. Hello everybody, this is episode number 19 and I'm comparing the real deal in an amplifier. I'm comparing preamps and I'm comparing power amps. What you could hear in the intro was switching from the AMP1 preamp to the Triumph Mark II preamp. So one of these is all tube. There's a full pure tube preamp stage which I'm using here, which is now the channel 3A, one of my favorite channels, and the other, I compare this to the AMP1 classic channel. So that's one, that's the other one. The big question now is which is which? Or there's a slight difference, but if you can guess it, great. If not, I show you which one we have now. So this is the tube of the Triumph, which is a real old yellow stemmed mallard from 1970. And now I switch to the other channel, which is now the AMP1. Triumph, AMP1. And AMP1. Okay, anyway, you can see this is super close. Okay, the big difference is this is all tube and this was non-tube. Okay, it kind of hurts to say that this preamp channel here is not using any tube at this point. I'm using all our tubeless preamp design, and we are that close. You can imagine we've done this with this channel. We can do it with like any channel because I've done it with any sounds. So we can recreate preamp tones even without tubes, and this is scary, but it's true. And on the other hand, people always see the nanotube here. But the nanotube, this little sub-miniature tube, works in the power amp stage of the AMP1. And today I would like to compare actually 4 kinds of power amp stages. There is the real deal all tube power amp stage from the Triumph Mark II, which is using EL34 tubes. Then I do have, of course, the AMP1 with the nanotube power amp stage. And I have a transistor amp, which is a nice Rad amp, which is a classic transistor amp. And our guest for today, which is Knut Bausch, brought over his Seymour Duncan Class D, the, what is it called, the Power Stage 170. As our switching system here for the power amps has optionally 4 loops, but only 3 of them are working. I have to replace this later on. So let's compare different style of power amp stages. just by ear. This is option 1, option 2, and option 3. Okay, maybe you can guess, but let me tell you what's really going on. The number 1 is our AMP1. See? That's the AMP1. Number 2 is the tri-amp. And this one, number 3, is the transistor amp. Okay, I play a few notes with the transistor amp, and then you might hear how it feels for me too. Like I want a little bit of reverb. Sounds kind of okay. There's nothing wrong about it, but let's switch to the AMP1, to the Nanotube power amp. Maybe you can hear, I can feel it. This is transistor again. It's kind of mid-rangey and it doesn't have any oomph. It's not, to me it sounds a bit boring. And now back to the AMP1. You know, it has some oomph and it has more sparkle. Transistor. And AMP1. Back to the transistor. Yeah, so that's my judgment. The transistor sounds a bit telephone. The transistor sounds a bit not as spongy, not as oomphy, and not as alive. So there's a difference, okay? I hope you can hear it. I can feel it and I can hear it. So now we are switching to from transistor and back AMP1, and now we go for the tri-amp. There's even more oomph and a little hum, sorry for that. We have too many cables, but if you listen to the EL34 power amp of the tri-amp, it sounds even a bit bigger and it has a bit more scooped mids, but it's, you know, it's more rock. Now I switch to the AMP1 again. Okay, what that is, it is the current feedback. A power amp has a a little signal line that comes from the output stage of the transformer that goes back into the input of the power amp. Maybe we can have a little look at the schematic of a tube amp. So you can see like there's an input which is the preamp stage, and you can find two tubes in the preamp stage which kind of ends with the send. So this is like your effects loop. There's two tubes in the preamp, and then there's a tube and a phase splitter tube and the power amp tubes for the power amp stage. And when you look at the symbol for the speaker, there's a line that goes from the speaker, from the output, back to the input of the power amp stage. And that is the current feedback. And with current feedback, you can determine what's the influence of the speaker to the power amp stage. We do that with the AMP1. What we have a different value from what's being used in the power amp. Okay, that's a matter of taste, but I want to explain where the difference is coming from. But besides that, we can, I can at least feel that the off is there, the byte is there, and it feels totally different from a standard transistor amp. So yeah, that's something, there's a difference in power amp stages. One little thing that is also important with the power amp stage is kind of what is the zagging, what is the, what kind of compression is there, how much headroom does it have, how loud it is, and how stiff it. We have done the Mercury edition and the Iridium edition. On the Iridium edition is totally different from the AMP1 Mercury edition. The Iridium has more oomph and it's tighter compared to the one. When I did the setup, I was using Kettner PS250 power amp stage. It's a 2-space rack mount tube power amp stage which uses EL84 tubes, power amp tubes, deliver kind of 50 watts, but these 50 watts compared to the AMP1 were so weak, so to speak. They were so spongy that I only could amps in the 50 watt mode. I had to go to the AMP1 watt to be the same of squash level of the power amp. I know this is weird to you guys, but I believe it's something you should know. Now you are more aware of how the things sound differently, because I can show you with no real just by using a switching system. I mean, if you do this in the store and you go to this amp and you put in your cable, you spend so much time, and in the meantime you forget and your ears will fool you. So sorry guys, we still have a problem about the microphone. We have to change the microphone again. There's some weird shit with my clip-on mic. I'll be right back. Just give us a sec. How? Alles gut? Geht's weiter? Okay, we are back. Sorry, we changed this clip-on mic. Hopefully we have a consistent sound now. Yeah, I'm sitting on the cable or whatever it is. Okay, I was talking about the different styles of power amps. Maybe we can have a little look at our oscilloscope that shows you when switching the waveform of the signal when I play. The best to do that is low notes. So this is like we are on the triamp. Okay. So next, just double check is like it's the tube amp. Okay, I get rid of the reverb. So, all right, hum like crazy. This is the transistor. Okay. I try to give you a slightly overdriven. Every power amp now is almost on its limits. You can see the AMP1 is at 7. So if I crank everything, I can kind of get it into the zone where it starts to saturate. Okay, this is like. Okay, let's start with our AMP1. I switch for the triamp. I can feel that it's really compressing. So the question is, what can I say? Let's compare this with the AMP1. I need more. I simply need more. I need more to saturate it. Okay, I'll do it. I crank to 10. Okay, can we show the oscilloscope again? Yeah, here you can see a little clipping. Everything on full. Okay, so you can see at the top it's still round. It has some edges. I mean, this is kind of the breakout point, but it still has a top that is not flat. It's a top that is round. And this is tube-like. Now let's see the tube amp, which is the triamp. Few seconds you can see the same effect, that the round sine wave gets clipped and then the top of the clipping is still round, and that's the tube thing. Can we show that again? Okay, and then the transistor amp has some soft clipping with diodes, but it's like. Yeah, when I play it, it feels powerless. There is no oomph to it. Okay, anyway, so this is what we can see with the oscilloscope, and it has a very loud fan built in. So switch off the oscilloscope for now. This was all very, very loud. Let's see what we can do next. Yeah, maybe we can see how a different AMP1 sounds, how very different the Iridium sounds. Let's use then not the preamp of the AMP1 Mercury, which is This is the triangle, as you can see. And this is the AMP1, as you can hear. Okay, let me think. You know what? We exchange simply the transistor amp because we are much better than standard transistor with anything else. So get this amp over here. Wow, this is interesting if this will work. Okay, get this is the input return. This is the speaker. And then I need the power as well. Bam. Okay. Here is the AMP1 Iridium Edition. Let's see. This cable is a bit short. Can maybe. Okay. I hope this is enough. Let's put it under the book on top of this. Okay, another power amp in the line, and here comes the guitar. Let's see what happens next. So we are on the classic channel, and we are on which power amp? Let's go back for, okay, this is AMP1 Mercury. This is Tri-amp. They are similar, and now I switch to, where is it, the switch? Okay. Aha, okay. I need this part. Yeah, you can hear there is tons of bass. And I compare this to the regular, where is it? So that's a different power amp. It's both using the nanotube design, but the character of the two power amps is so different. This is inspired by, you know, a classic Marshall style power amp, and it's trying to be in between Marshall and Fender-esque. So it has kind of a punchy mid-range, and the Iridium Edition is more coming from a power amp that is used for metal amps like the Ref, you know, this kind of metal amp. So the foundation on the AMP1 Iridium Edition is totally different. Okay, just, you can hear it again. And back to this one. Aha. So, see, the Iridium Edition is already kind of sounding metal from the power amp stage. So when people write emails and say, hey, can I get my amp modified to sound a bit different? It is not just one thing. It is a whole amp, and everything in the signal path plays its role to make a certain character in tone. Wow, okay, you got that? And this is all live. I will now exchange this Iridium Edition and I switch it to the AMP1 again. Let me see here. Okay. And try out the Seymour Duncan. So here is input. This is speaker output. This is power. And this is switch on. The fan. So nobody should complain about fan noise with BluGuitar products, because this is loud as the oscilloscope. Yeah, we have regulated fans in our AMP1 so the fan is a lot less noise. Okay, let's simply check out what happens here. I switch this on. And I compare this to the AMP1. So this is a Class D product now, and this is line flat, everything in the middle, and yeah, yes, you can see I make full volume, so we are pretty high in volume already. Sounds not bad, but not as exciting as the Nanotube power amp, I think. Let's see what we can do when we spice it up with the EQ. A little bass. Okay, that helps, nice. And maybe a little bit of treble. So that's getting closer, compare it. AMP1 versus the Seymour Duncan. Still, it's not as alive. I give it more treble, more bass. Yeah, okay, now it's coming. And back to the AMP1. Yeah, I think it's pretty good. I prefer the Nanotube or the Triumph, the real tube. Where are we? Here are we. So the Triumph is kind of in between the Mercury and the Iridium on this channel. Okay, what's the lesson? The lesson is there are different style of power amp designs, and there is a lot of different character that we get from the power amp stage. Most people underrate the power amp stage. They think it's just something that makes the sound louder. I think it's much, much more. It is what is the foundation of the amplifier, and it is what makes the amp sound in a certain way. Yeah, okay, get rid of the hum. And this kind of foundation is so important because all the preamp EQ voicings have to match the power amp character. And in this combination, you get a full picture and a sound that is at the level that you expect, because everything is important. If something is not in order, it gets out of balance. So power amp, very important. The way it feels and the way the punch feels and how it responds is important. This is Class D, which is extra low weight, very light, very compact. I have to say I like the format, the form factor, and it's a pretty good product because it's versatile. You can do a lot with it. Great. And they have a new version out there with even more controls, with the presence control, and the rest is like, hey, we have a few 100 watts now, but hey, in the end, that's not important. It is in the range of it's loud enough, so don't worry. Some smaller products, they have advertised like 50 watts, but watch out, these 50 watts are coming at 4 ohms, and if you have a 16 ohm Marshall cabinet, then there's 12.5 watts. This kind of power amp gives you enough headroom, but some of the others, they are simply too weak for proper gigs. I wouldn't play with that. if you have a blues band and you play one of those and have the right screaming cabinet and not a loud drummer, you might survive with it, but for me it wouldn't be enough. This would be enough. So there are some alternatives on the market for different power amps. My personal preference is still tubes or nanotube, and yeah, this is where it's at. And as we could hear, it's scary that the preamp section can be done without tubes, without being any different. And that's the same like with the power amp stage. With the nanotube power amp stage, we get in the zone where you don't hear the difference anymore and where you don't feel the difference anymore. And then you can save the weight and the maintenance for such a tube amp. And this was my personal dream, to get a product out there that is way more convenient, but still offers the sonic qualities, sound and feel of the real deal tube amps, and is not a compromise. So this is the level we are talking here. Okay, I think this was a lot of techno question. I have a question for you guys, the super techno questions. We can have a few minutes that you think about it. If I compare 2 preamps and 3 power amps, 1, 2, 3, how many cables do we need for the setup? How many cables do we need for the setup? Is it 40 cables? Is it 30 cables? Is it 20 cables? Is it 18 cables? Is it 15 cables? Is it 12 cables? One of these numbers is the right number. And who is the first person that understands and gives us the right number will win this book. This is a Fender reference book, which got forbidden by Fender because, so this is a super rare thing. I opened that now for you guys. And this book gives you the data of all the different Fender Strats and guitars, the dimensions, the weights, the radiuses. So this is kind of a very nice book to get all the information about Fender guitars. So this is your kind of dictionary or your library of, yeah. So this is your prize. How many cables are being used for this comparison setup? Which means 2 preamps and 3 power amps. The magic number. Nobody? Nobody dares. Hey, if not, you can guess, is it 12, 15, 18, 20, 30, 40? We got a winner here, and it's, I have to look at this screen, Alex Martins. Hello, Alex Martins is the lucky winner of the Fender reference book. And I wrote a little introduction chapter on this book. So, correct number is 18. Okay, so we have a winner. Do we have any questions? I would love to hear questions. Maybe I can check out something here that I was missing out. Is there anything you want to hear? Now is the chance. Please ask me now so I can see if I can do this live for you on this stream. I tell you, it was a big time to set up everything without having any hum problems. I learned a lot about grounding again. You probably know grounding is an issue, and when you do a setup that is so complex with the 2 preamps and 3 power amps and the blue box and our mixing console here, we have so many grounds and so many things. Unbelievable. Yeah, so this was a big setup day yesterday. Took almost half a day to do it. Okay, we got some questions here. Andrea Joy, what is it? Alex Martins. Does BluGuitar welcome foreign students on internship? At this point, we are so busy with what we are doing, we wouldn't have the time to care about people, because if we have like guests or people that would work with us, we need to have time to integrate, and we are very busy. So not at this point, maybe in the future. You can ask again when the AMP1 is out. Let's talk then, okay? So, thanks for the question. Christian Busch, warum hat Thomas Blug die ESP von Alex Bayrum? Okay, this is a German question. Why does Thomas Blug has the ESP von Alex Bayreuth? Because we are friends and we swapped guitars back a few years back. So he's got one of my vintage, where is it? Like one of these. No, actually, he's got, this is the truth. He's got the other guitar. This was the prototype 1, P1, and Alex has the other prototype, which is P2. This was the guitar that I've done for vintage, and this is a handmade prototype. We will talk about it in a few minutes with our guest Knut, because he was involved in that thing as well. And so we kind of swapped guitars, and I'm very happy to have one of Alex's guitars. I really like it. So, you know, I get a nice guitar from a guy that actually knows what's great in this kind of genre of guitars and that he loves. And so he gets one of my beloved guitars, and I got one of his beloved guitars. So yeah, thanks to Alex again. You know, this is kind of, whenever he calls me and needs it back, no worries, it's there, vice versa. All good. Okay, next question here. Osmium Studios, could you tell what the vintage channel and the modern Iridium channels are based on? Which amps are? Okay, Iridium, where's the Iridium? I put the Iridium down here. So, the vintage channel. The vintage channel is based on, I would say, a brown sound. And I found a nice brown sound. I found a nice sound in the ref amp, you know, in the purple channel. And that's something that I used for reference, but I never do a one-to-one copy. But it is inspired in that direction. So this is kind of a brown sound here on the Iridium Vintage. And then what was the other channel? The Modern. Yeah, that's kind of a 5150 high gain sound with lots of screaming tight gain. That's and this is what a 5150 is known for. So this is kind of the direction I went on the Iridium edition. Okay, next question. Paul Schlachter. Has the AMP1 some kind of current feedback since it's Class D hybrid? Yes, it does. And the current feedback is different on this amp and on in the Iridium and the Mercury edition. And we don't have a control for it, like a presence control or like a depth or punch knob. But this is in our design. So we have this kind of current feedback in our design, which is using the Class D and the Nanotube. So it is not only Class D, it's more. It's more than this fellow here. This is a Class D. The Seymour Duncan is Class D plus an EQ, which is great. But it's a nice product because you have direct access to EQing, which helps a lot. But we have the EQ built in the amp itself. So it is like we don't need the EQ on the power amp. So we have our preamp EQ here. But the power amp has this specific character, and we have a specific value for the current feedback that I like with that amp and a different one with that amp. So current feedback exists in our amps, and it is different from amp to amp. And it's even different to the first version, the silver version. So when you just buy an AMP1 and use that as a power amp, which is great, because as you could hear in the A-B comparison, it sounds really, really tubey, and it feels, that's the main thing, it feels tubey. You probably don't hear that, but this is what it, when you play the string, this is what's so important for me, and this is what we get with the Nanotube power amp design. Different from pure Class D. I mean, we use Class D, but we use more to make it real tube, authentic sounding and feeling. Okay, next question, Maisha Sibona, whoops. Okay, since you have an FM3 there, yes, I'd love to hear the difference between AMP1 preamp and FM3, similar models through the same AMP1 power amp. That's a good point. We can do this with Knut when we change the setup for the second part of the show. We keep that in mind. Yeah, that's a nice topic. Let's see if we get there. Okay, next question is Scott's Digital Guitar Playground, maybe a store. Is there a big difference between 9 volt and 18 volt power with the Blue Box? Thanks. Actually not. The 9 volt will work. The 18 volts give you a hair of more headroom for the operational amplifiers in the Blue Box, which if you are the super esoteric hi-fi guy, maybe you like, but to be honest, it's so small of a difference, I wouldn't care. And one thing you should know about 18 volts, 18 volts is the limit on the Blue Box. Some power supplies, they print out 18 volts on it, but they actually have 19 or even 20 volts because they kind of are overrated, and then they need a load, and then the voltage drops down to 18. And the Blue Box will stop working over 18 volts. So I would recommend to try out your 18 volt power supply if it really works with if it's really 18 volts and then it would work with the Blue Box, or go for a 12 volt or a 9 volt power supply. Because me, the vintage guy, would even say the 9 volt sounds a bit creamier, but you know, that's the last 0.5% in the sound. Okay, then we have the Dutch guitar dude, Erik de Jong. Okay, do you prefer 7.5 fret boards like me? Yes, this is he's talking about the radius on the fingerboard, on the fretboard of the guitar, and 7.25 is a vintage radius, which is rounder, which makes it harder to bend the strings or to make a setup, versus a more flat fretboard, which would be like 10 or whatever, 12, 15, or a bigger number. They are easier for certain things, but me being the vintage guy, I do prefer the 7 inch or 7.5 or whatever and a quarter fretboard radius. Okay, next question, Steffen Hardekopf. Will there be a preamp tube in the AMP1? Well, there is no preamp tube in the AMP1, and there will definitely not be a preamp tube in the AMP1. We will have a nanotube in the AMP1, but it's working with the power amp stage, just like on the AMP1. This is my philosophy. As you can see that what I've done in the first part of this video, in the AB, in the preamp stage, no tube versus all tube, I don't hear any substantial difference. It is a matter of taste, and I could voice it, I believe, identically. If I spent more time to get 100% this tone, I would get there even without a real tube. In the power amp stage, I'm still not 100% there. We can get close without tubes, but the nanotube is still the thing for me in the power amp stage. Okay, any more questions, or that's it for now? No, no more questions, no more questions. Well, that's yeah, I was just checking out the Seymour Duncan Power Amp and how the EQ feels, because this is the first time I have it in my hand, you know, in front of running cameras, and it sounds pretty good, yeah. Somebody knows tone, which is not bad. But I don't know if you can hear it. Now the fan stopped. What a relief to me. And we have a few other fans in the room, from laptops for the video, and of course all our stuff here. There's two AMP1 and nothing you can hear. But this thing is, well, it's a good fan. It does the job, but it's not a bit noisy. Okie doke. If we are ready, I would, one more question, last question, no question. Aha, Ricardo. I think I know Ricardo from Switzerland. Yeah. The nanotube pencil valve. Pencil, yeah, the little valve, sub-miniature tube is the correct description. Is a pentode, triode, or tetrode. This thing is a triode. And what is Huvigi? I can't. Huvigi, BluGuitar, or whatever this means. No. Okay, now it's Huvi. Hi, BluGuitar. I know there are I was wondering what this was. I was totally. Okay, Huvi. Huvi is the guy with the D-flex. Maybe you know him. And GSE, I don't know what this means, but Huvi is Huvi. Okay, hi BluGuitar. I know there are different power amps in the silver vintage versus other channels. Yeah, it's the same with the iridium and the mercury. No. Okay, the question is on the Triumph, for example. I can show you on the Triumph. This was the thing. No sound. Because I switched this off. So Triumph still works. And I'm using the vintage preamp on the Mercury edition now. But now I switch the preamp channels on the Triumph, and then I'm not changing the preamp channels itself. I'm just switch from preamp channel to preamp channel, and then the sound is different. So the Triumph is designed in a way that there is different sounds from the power amp stage, different kind of current feedback values, And we've done the same thing on the first AMP1, on the silver edition, when switching from the vintage channel to the classic channel. On the Mercury edition, we didn't do that anymore because I found a setting that I like for all channels. And of course, all the channels are revoiced. There's one advantage of doing that is if somebody plays with a backing track into the effects return and you switch channels, there is no volume difference anymore with the Mercury edition. With the Triumph or with the silver, you can hear your playback going up and down in volume. That's the downside of doing this kind of switching. Yeah, there are options. It's all possible. The Mercury edition, as it is, I believe it doesn't need that anymore. I mean, it would be there. It is at hand if we would need it. But I found the voicing for the power amp and the preamps that, yeah, I was happy with without doing that. So makes the handling a bit easier, and I'm not missing anything tone-wise. But hey, they're all different, and there's no better amp. The silver one is a different amp. It's not better, it's not worse, it's just different. And it's up to you to decide what you like better. Okay, then Alfredo Marasco, stupid question. Is it normal in the AMP1 that at some point, if you leave the device for hours, the fan activates and it's very loud, nothing to worry about? Right, okay. So there is a fan built into the AMP1, and this is regulated. And the speed, there is like a temperature sensor at a few parts, which is at the power amp stage and the power supply. And it kind of measures the temperature, and when it's at a certain value, it starts speeding up the fan. So there's nothing to worry about. The fan simply notices if the amp is on for a long time and maybe some heat is in the housing, that it wants to speed up and get it cooled down, and then it's cool for a long time again. But nothing to worry about. So all good. These are the questions for today. I think we are ready to... One more? Aha, I'm getting another question. Okay, Russell Sauna. I actually have a legit question. I am starting to play 5 strings bass a lot, okay? What's the range of the amp? How low can we go? Okay, I play a lot of down-tuned 7-string guitar too, and I haven't hit the -3 dB roll-off. Okay, this is something a metal player could also ask. Let's put it that way. The AMP1 gives you a 100-watt nanotube power, as we could hear in the comparison between the real tube, the transistor, and our nanotube. The headroom of the AMP1 is at least at the same level as the Triumph. The Triumph isn't any louder. They kind of have the same output power. If that's enough for you when you go low, then you can be happy with an AMP1. If you play a real bass, I wouldn't play a 100-watt bass amp. I would play 400 watts at least. And so if you do that, no problem. From what you describe, I would probably try the Mercury, but you have a bass control here. I would, yeah, simply try it, and it's all good. One thing on my amps in general is when you reduce the volume, the clean volume, or the gain, you have this kind of treble bleed, which means you get less gain, less signal, but you keep the high end. And if you play this kind of instruments, that's probably nice to have a different tone spectrum, because it kind of enhances the overtones. So my suggestion would be try to play a little lower gain settings from the controls and see what happens, and balance it out with a 3-band tone control. So there's options. Give it a try. I think, and on the other hand, you can hurt nothing. The AMP1 can be driven to maximum, and there's a fan. The fan will take care of the heat, and in the worst case, there's a protection circuit that will simply shut off the unit before it's damaged. So just go ahead and experiment. Okay, I got a guy from, where's this? Arabia, Khaled. Yeah, he got his blue box today, so he's very happy. Thanks for the message. I'm happy that you received it. Post seems to work. Okay, next is David Anderson. Can you describe why it's hard for digital to create non-linear characters of overdrive and distortion? Yes, I can give you a try. In the digital domain, everything is kind of you have to create models. If you want to create a model that gives you saturation, which is a natural thing for an analog component, you have to create a model. And creating a model can get pretty complex. But first, let me describe what's happening in the analog world. In the analog world, it's super easy. You have a clean signal, and then you have like the headroom that is given by the power supply or the voltage that you have. And when you start to exceed that range, your component will simply clip. And there's different styles of clipping. You know, there's some ugly clipping, and there's some soft clipping, and there's all kind of components have kind of different style of clip. You know, when you look at all the overdrive pedals, you see tons of different diodes. They have this kind of diode. They have, some use LEDs for clipping. Some use, standard silicon. Different styles. The same with transistors. All these components, all these parts can be used for clipping. And what is happening with those components and the clipping depends on the component itself. And a tube, therefore, has a typical way of saturation, which is kind of what people like, because it's not as harsh, and it has more second harmonics, and which is more the even numbers. The natural overtones will come as overtones. And if you have, in the digital world, if you process a signal, the first thing is you have to make totally sure that you never exceed the maximum level. If you have digital clip, it's like, it's kaputt. The German word kaputt describes it the best. It's not usable at all. But you know, the evolution of rock music with tube amps is, yeah, they try to make clean amps, but people were cranking them to the level where they actually, exceeded the limit, and people like that tone. If they would have digital amps in the 50s and 60s, they would probably never invented a rock music, because they wouldn't have a natural kind of saturation. And here comes the history of the tube amps. Is a tube amp, as we could have seen. Let's show the diagram of a tube amp again. We have seen at the beginning of the episode. We can see many tubes in the signal path. There is the first tube that is kind of two halves of a tube, and then that you see another tube which is kind of in one ball, which is the cathode follower stage in the Marshall. And then there is another phase revert splitter tube before the four power amp tubes. So this is all 4-5 tubes in the signal path will clip. And if you take a proper designed clean amp, they will max out every stage, and then the clipping of each stage comes to the clipping of the next stage. And that's a non-linear effect. Because if you would have one simple clip, that's something it's easy to recreate in the digital domain. But the complexity of a tube amp with all these stages, all clipping, and then of course the signal changes, because you could see on the oscilloscope, you know, the round shape is different. It has kind of a flat top, a flatter top, which is still round. And this is the sharp edges, these are the overtones. And then, you know, this kind of signal goes into the next stage and it's clipped again. And this is all dependent on the zagging effect, which means how much juice, how much power is still in the L caps of the power supply, how much is the voltage drop, how is the clip point changed. And this is so complex. Try to do this on the digital domain. So far, I haven't heard something that was really convincing me with my high expectations. I'm not saying digital models are not good, no, but I worked 5 years on a modeling amp with Hughes and Kettner, and I know how hard it is to get a good clipping, and I know how hard it is to get a rich tube-like behavior without side effects. And analog technology is doing that just by nature. So why changing nature? This is why I still a big believer in the analog technology. Plus, the way we do it is there is no signal conversion, so it stays analog from input to output, and all the stages inside the AMP1 are doing the similar or the same things like the stages in an all-tube amp. I mean, this is what I showed at the beginning with the two preamp stages, like 3 tubes versus no tube in our design. How is this possible? Analog, I believe it's possible. But I haven't heard many analog designs which have that sound of quality. And this is where I'm very proud of that we can do it without sacrificing the authentic feel and tone. Okay, anyway, where are we? So, can you describe why it's hard? Yeah, digital. Ask a digital engineer, which is not me. Maybe one day I have a guest, but I think he would not feel too comfortable sitting next to an analog preacher. Okay, anyway, we have a short changeover here, and then we will have our second part, the 4-cable method. We are on this kind of stream, having different products from different companies, all doing the 4-cable method, which are, we had line 6 there, we had Boss and Roland their last episode. We will have another Boss Roland next week, but today we have Fractal Audio and the FM3, which is their latest very portable product in combination with the AMP1 with my dear friend Knut Bausch. And we'll be right back after a short break. Here is a story about Knut. We have to show you a very famous AMP1 user who comes from Canada, and he's playing in the band Saga. And after the short break, we will let you know our story with Ian, the AMP1, and all the rest. See you in a few minutes. Nice to meet you in my hometown, Saarbrücken.
Very beautiful town.
Yeah.
Been here a few times.
Yeah, I remember back in the days you played, I think in the stadium once, and you played a couple of times in the Saarland.
It's been a number of years, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, tonight is the E-Werk. E-Werk is an old industrial building, and Now, sometimes the sound is a bit tricky because the room is quite big.
Yeah.
And there's some reverb, so maybe...
Some reverb. I can still hear the band from last month though playing.
Okay. Hello. Yeah. I saw you have a heavy schedule again this year.
We do. We're playing all year. Yeah, we're coming back to Europe 3 more times, June, July, and August. We're playing after this tour, Cruise to the Edge with Yes.
Ah, okay.
A lot of English bands.
Yeah,
And,
like progressive bands?
Yeah, all progressive cruise. It's a 5-day cruise, goes to South America.
And it started, where is it? Miami.
Miami. Yeah.
I've been to Miami this January.
Oh, yeah.
For vacation, so I know where the cruise boat's leaving.
It's really quite good, except for, you know, it's like living in a shopping mall for 5 days. Everybody's talking 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of bands, you can check them out, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know some of the bands, they are on the same cruise, like the people from Yes or who else?
Well, Yes, you know the guys in Yes, yeah. Steve Lukather. You know,
Oh my
you know
God!
Steve?
Yeah, sure. I mean, not deeply, but we met once, and of course, he's a killer player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's got a new band out, Nerve Bundle or something like that. They're playing on the ship.
Nerve Bundle sounds a bit scary to me.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's 3-piece, 4-piece.
Okay, yeah. Cool. Yeah. So this is the amp that you toured with for, when did you...
2018.
Okay, 18, okay. And now you have the new one, which is called the Mercury edition, and this is kind of the first one. And one day you sent it back because you told me, oh, there's a problem. It's maybe it's broken. And I found out it wasn't broken. You simply had an issue, which you didn't know, of course. When you switch it on while holding this switch, the amp goes into what we call the preset mode, and funky things happen. See, I press this here, and I'm in vintage boost and reverb, and this is classic boost reverb and no clean channel anymore. So what this is, in the preset mode, we can assign 3 of your favorite settings onto the internal foot switches. So to go back, we have to do the same thing. So this is kind of press down while switching it on, and now I can go back for the regular stuff. Which settings would be your, settings that you would like to have on the switches?
The main setting I use is the classic for the main sort of guitar sound.
Right. With boost, without boost?
No boost.
No boost?
No.
And no reverb?
And no reverb.
Or you would have the reverb like optional on?
No reverb.
Never?
Never.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, only I use it in the house, but I mean, we're playing the E-Works and there's so much reverb in this room right now. It's like, I don't need to add any more reverb from somewhere. So I'm a dry player, so that I'd like to go from that.
Yeah.
And then when I do a lead, I'd like to go up to the modern sound.
Okay, cool. And anything we should put on the third switch, or you want like a clean also?
Well, yeah, I need the clean. Yeah.
Okay. So let's start with the clean. You use the clean with the boost or without the boost?
No boost.
No boost, no reverb. Okay. So to program this would be clean, no boost, no reverb. I press and hold the button, wait for the blinking. And when this is blinking, the next button I press will later recall that setting. So next is classic, no boost, no reverb. Press and hold, wait for the blinking. And that one, and then you have the modern. No boost, no reverb, press and hold, wait for the blinking, and tell this button to be that. So now nothing has happened. I switch off, press and hold this button, and now it should be magic, and we have clean, classic, and modern. Forever. Clean, classic, modern.
This is one of those times where I should have read the manual, right?
Sure, but how many pages?
I mean, I got one over there and just turning it on this, turning it off there, playing away,
Yeah. Okay, but this is it's possible, and this is like the amp looks so simple in a way, but it does more than you think it does. You know, I kind of used you to show this, you know.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I'm going to go downstairs and do that to the one I'm using right now.
Right. Yeah, and then the good thing is, if you don't press and hold any of these buttons while switching it on, it will always stay like that. So, you know, next gig, you unplug the whole thing, you know, whatever, next stage, you switch it on, and it will be your 3 sounds, just like hardwired.
Perfect.
Yeah. Or even if you have a problem on stage, somebody, you know, the power goes because some guys make a shortcut or whatever, it will come back at the same setting and do the same thing, just like...
Awesome. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, so instead of using the boost, which is good, but I preferred the modern sound. And I was and now with that set up, so there we go.
Cool.
Great. Yeah.
Very cool. So, I just going back to what I've seen you doing, is you are a straightforward player. So there's your maybe clean and
perfect. Yeah, I mean, I got a clean sound, a regular sound that's good, that speaks well for chorus. Because if it's too distorted, I find I start a couple songs by myself, and at the first they were just a little too distorted. You can't hear the notes, you know. So the classic makes me hear the notes, and it's still a big sound, but it's more clear. And then, you know, when I do a solo, rather than going to a distortion sort of thing, I was preferring this modern sound. So now this is set up perfectly. Yeah. Great. Thanks, Thomas.
Hey, big pleasure. And I'm looking forward to see the show tonight. Yeah. And I mean, big success for the tour and the gigs that are all coming. And
you know, I should say that the thing that I'm really impressed with this is because I travel internationally. We play all over the place, in the States, Canada, the Caribbean, South America.
And on boats.
And on boats. And, you know, I like in the past, I would get like a Marshall amp. Marshalls are really good or really bad, or, you know, and I was showing up at gigs and having terrible shows sometimes because of the amp. Yeah. This makes me sound the same everywhere, and it goes in my carry-on. Yeah. It goes in my carry-on. I mean, you know, I just walk in, plug this into a cabinet, and away you go, and it's just brilliant. I always sound the same. Right. And this is such a relief when you're going in. If you're not flying with a carnet with amplifiers and your gear and all that stuff, which we don't anymore.
Very few people can afford that.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's...
and it's a lot of hassle too.
It's a lot of hassle and stuff. So this is just so convenient too, you know, amongst sounding really good. Yeah. You know.
Yeah, so, yeah. Finally, we get more and more players using this AMP1, and you were one of the first ones, which made me so proud because, as I told you last time, you're one of my heroes, and it's so great, you know, to hear people like you that know the real deal, that is working for them. You know, so.
Well, brilliant piece of work, Thomas.
Thanks.
Well done, sir.
Cool. So stay tuned for the next episode.
Stay tuned for the next one. Well, the next thing coming out, the cabinets, the fatties.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Knut Bausch. And finally, we do a video together.
Yeah, the first time ever.
And the first time ever, yeah. And yeah, but there's a lot of things we have done in the past. And it starts with many things. This guitar, for example. And it all starts with the number 1 and 2. And we already heard that number 1, the prototype number 1 is, this is the number 1. So this guitar is a vintage, this is the prototype of the vintage master build. We've done, how many years ago?
Oh, 5, 6 years ago.
Maybe longer.
Yeah.
You know, you
make it quickly.
Yeah, genau. Yeah. And I have another episode where I told a story about how I wanted to get that guitar, but you were actually the guy that built that guitar.
Yeah.
I mean, we ordered the components from Vintage.
Yeah.
And then you put them together, and I had Daniel Hahn painting it, and you made out of all these components, you made the guitar. This was kind of your job.
Well, I mean, it's not rocket science to make a Strat. I mean, 2 parts, the body and the neck.
Yeah.
And normally it should fit perfectly together.
But
I say normally.
Yeah.
But when the neck arrived, it was way too big.
Yeah.
It was way too big.
Yeah, we ordered separate parts. So it didn't come from the factory like, okay, they belong together. So they simply sent us something and we kind of started from scratch.
Yeah, we did.
But the good thing about that is we could change it the way we wanted it. Yeah. So you shaped the necks.
Yeah.
And
It wasn't my intention to shape the necks. I had to, you know. It took me hours.
Okay, but I didn't mind because the result was, you know, something that we talked about, and in the end, was what I wanted. You know, it wasn't just a guitar like the others. It was a guitar that we worked on, and the result was something special, and this became the signature model in the end.
Absolutely. I mean, I can remember that Mario did the saddle.
Okay, I don't know the details anymore.
It's a real bone.
Oh, it's a real bone.
Yeah, sure.
So if you have one, no wait a minute. This is the standard one.
This is the standard one. Yeah. But this is the stock, and this is I would say custom shop.
Yeah, this is definitely custom shop. Wow. Yeah, and this is also using the original Dunlop frets and the whole 9 yards. So you've done that. Yeah. And so besides being a guy that knows how to build guitars or fret guitars or, you know, make them work in a certain way, you worked for a couple of years in this kind of custom shop.
Yeah.
Do you remember how many? 3, 4, 5 years?
I mean, 4 years. So
yeah.
4 years.
But besides that, you are a teacher and you are playing in several bands.
Yeah.
A lot of cover bands in themes. Journey is one.
Journey, Toto, the good old stuff, you know. And I played in a rock cover band for 20 years.
Wow.
I mean, 20 years is a third of your life normally. And
we get older.
That is a thing that works here in the part of Germany works pretty good.
Yeah.
At least it worked pretty good.
Yeah, with the COVID-19, nothing works anymore. We are all fucked, and we hope it will be back to normal one day.
Yeah, hopefully.
And it's tough to do it. But let's talk about the Ian story. I tell you the story from my side. So what I remember was I was in the UK doing something else, and on the day of the arrival I got a phone call, like, Ian from Saga, Ian Crichton is having a problem. Can you play with Saga tonight? And I was not even home. So, and the first thing I said, hey guys, I'm not sure, but then, you know, I don't know who it was, the tour manager or the sound guy.
The sound guy, Chris. It was Chris, yeah.
Chris probably sent me the songs that I should learn during the day and during the drive to the gig, so I could play with Saga. And on my way back home to Saarbrücken, to my home, coming from somewhere else, I thought, man, this is way too much for myself. And I thought, maybe I know somebody that knows some of the tunes, because Saga music is really complex.
Yeah.
And I would never be able to learn that in a day. I can fake anything, but to fake Saga, I think it's not a nice thing. So I thought, man, who else can do that? And maybe somebody has some experience. And then I remembered that you are doing kind of cover gigs, and that you are the expert for complex music. I mean, Toto, Journey, Saga, you know?
Yeah, but as far as I can remember, you said the same day. It was the day prior to that.
Okay, even then.
But
I felt very stressed, so for me it was the same day.
No, I can remember.
Okay.
I arrived at a friend's place for rehearsing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as a habit, I normally switch off my phone when entering the practice room. Yeah. And so while I was trying to turning off the phone, the telephone rang. And I heard a voice. It wasn't Chris, I think it was the tour manager. And he said, "Are you Knut?" I said, "Yes." "Do you know Saga?" And I said, "Yes, the Canadian band. Do you know some songs?" And I said, "Yeah, I know 3. I know the flyer. I know Wind Him Up, and the one song with the funny guitar staccato kicking in the middle." And he said, "On the Loose." I said, "Yeah, On the Loose."
Okay,
that's only 3 songs. And he said, "Okay, can you imagine to play with Saga tomorrow night?"
Okay.
And I said, "Oh my God!" And then I said, "Have you asked Thomas?"
Yeah. This way.
And he said, "Thomas is not around. He's in the UK." And I said, "Okay, yes, I know. I mean, what to say?" And I said, "Yes," for some reason.
Sure. And then you ended up playing a gig with Saga.
Yeah.
Or a few even.
A few, yeah.
Yeah.
But the first I had to hurry home. At 9 o'clock in the evening, and I was waiting patiently for the email to arrive with all the songs. Yeah. And I was listening to all the tunes, and I said, "Okay, I'm fucked, totally fucked," because, as you said, it's very complex music.
Absolutely.
And I was listening to the whole songs, and I said, "Okay, there are 3 songs. There's no chance that I can play it a few hours later. The other one, okay." And so I started writing sheets, and I put 4 sheets together to a giant sheet, so I can put it on the floor. Well, you can't play with the stand on
no,
it
looks shitty. Yeah.
And so I started to learn the songs from 10 o'clock in the evening till 3 o'clock in the night. Went to bed for 2 hours and then got up and learned the rest. Drove to the show and met with the band. And it was a strange kind of feeling because they said, "Is he able to do it?" And I said, "Am I able to do it?" Pretty strange, but the show was sold out, a big crowd, you were already yelling. And then
Warpswede, I think it was.
No, it was Trier.
This was Trier.
Because
they played Warpswede, and then they had a problem.
No, Warpswede was 5 shows later.
Okay.
That's why they called us, because we are close to Trier.
Okay.
Yeah, so...
I forgot about all that stuff. Yeah, they wanted to have local guys that would be not far from the gig.
Yeah, that can drive with the own car. So I played the show, and when entering the stage, and I had a crowd, and I said, "Oh, come on, it's rock and roll." And I made a big show. I was running around, was grinning, you know. And of course, I faked some songs, because Saga means you have to double the keyboard parts, yeah. And
too much information.
On the record, you can hear the parts are doubled, but also there's a rhythm guitar. Yeah. So I took the part of the rhythm guitar. Okay, the most important things like Wind Him Up, On the Loose, I had to learn exactly, because that is. And I know that the last song that evening I was a totally overload, so I was not that I fucked up the song. But anyway,
who cares? You know,
the audience was happy. The Saga boys was happy. They said, "Hey man, great job." So up for the next 5 gigs, and so I played a German tour up till the end, and then Ian returned from hospital, and they left Germany for Scandinavia. But
it took a good end, you know.
Yeah.
And we are all happy, but I mean, this is the show business. Once in a while, you know. First, it's so hard to replace somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a blues gig where you can play a blues and A.
Yeah.
No, it is songs at a certain level, and then sometimes it's like now. It's not like, okay, we start and then we prepare. It's like now or tomorrow. I had a few things like that where, like Ali Neander, another German guitar player, found out about a double booking. Oh, I got a gig here, and fuck, I got a TV show, man. And then call rings, and I said, can you play the TV show? Because in the other band, I'm more important, you know. Can you play the pop gig? I do the rock gig, you know. And then he was nice enough to show me a few songs, and I could fake it. But you know, this is the real challenge, okay?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
I mean, for sure. Later on, I read the comments on YouTube, and I have to say that the Saga fans are a nice family.
Yeah.
They're so full of love and nice people.
Yeah.
And I read one comment, and I said, that's not good. He's not even close to Ian.
How can you?
For sure.
Sure.
I don't care about it.
Yeah, no.
Because moreover, we became friends.
Yeah.
And that's more important than a few gigs. You know?
And hey, it is, nobody can really replace somebody.
No,
you can do your thing, but if the music is that complex, if it's not fair, it's simply, it's not possible. I mean, I know what you've been doing, and this is tons of respect, you know. and you know, I know many great guitar players could not even do that. You know, you need.
I still have an original sheet from Ian, the keyboard player.
Yeah.
When you asked me for one song, the doubling of the keyboard, he said, "Man, this part is very important. So can you double it?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, what do I have to play?" And he said, "Can you read music?" And I said, "Yeah, I can." And so okay, come on, I read it. And I wrote it down, and I took it with me. I put it in the frame.
Yeah, put it on the frame.
Maybe one day you found it on eBay. No.
Yeah, all good.
I will keep it. Okay.
Yeah. So so this was the big story on that side.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, we know each other, you know, through guitars, but also, you know, you used the AMP1 for a couple of years now, and you have several setups with the AMP1, and mainly the 4-cable method. I think you are kind of one of those experts using 4-cable method. So you had an FM8.
FX8.
FX8. Sorry. Yeah. So we have to explain. Fractal Audio is a company that makes beautiful digital products, and the FX8 is a
effects only.
Effects only.
Yeah.
And you showed me that pedal board, and that's a very, very nice combination with the AMP1. Yeah. Because then you have like best of both worlds. You have the analog amp and you have the digital effects, and the quality of the Fractal stuff is very high, and I was impressed.
Yeah.
So, but you also have other setups. You also have a Helix, HX effects.
Yeah, the HX came first. Because this is you only need effects for the AMP1. Yeah. I mean, the FM3 has modeling
inside
already. So you don't need the AMP1. You only need the FM3 and the similar Duncan Power Stage.
Yeah.
But the FX8 ran out of production.
Yeah.
And so they said, we don't need a model with and without modeling. We put it together in one box, that's all. So if you like to use the amp models, you can do.
Sure.
Or you use a real amp and the effects.
And the effects. Yeah. So you are more flexible with this FM3, as it offers you kind of both.
Yeah.
So and this is the first time I see the FM3. I know it's a kind of a new unit.
Yeah, it's it was announced a year ago, but then it took a long time. Corona.
Well, it's a digital product, and it takes a long time.
From China, yeah.
Yeah, but okay, it's a long, and now it's here.
Yeah.
And so what are you doing with it, and what's your setup, and what do you like about it? It has only 3 switches, but you can do a bit more with those.
Yeah, I mean, I also have the big one, the FX3, the big one, and the FC12, a giant
foot controller.
A giant one, the size. Yeah. So everything is okay. This one only has 3 buttons, but it's enough.
Yeah.
You know, so if you have to play a show like Toto or Journey, you don't need 6 songs in a song.
Yes.
Yeah. So you can make about 10 presets, and what I use scenes. That's the term. Helix, in Helix it's called snapshots.
Snapshots,
yeah. So is this one preset with all the blocks you need?
Okay, let's clarify that, because I think that's very important.
Yeah.
When you switch presets on a digital device, the preset kind of reloads the whole thing, and that takes time.
Yeah.
And that is kind of causing a little glitch in between switching.
Yeah, it's a hearable gap between.
There's a gap.
Yeah.
So, and when you have a preset and you switch to another scene within the same preset, there is a continuous sound, and there is no glitches, and that's the same. Snapshot is the term which is used with line 6, and scenes is what is the term used with Fractal Audio.
Yeah, the reason why there is no gap, because the blocks, the block stays the same.
Yeah.
You only turn it on, turn it off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of the digital model and structure stays the same, but inside that model, there's some parameters that would change, or a block will be activated or deactivated.
Yeah.
Okay.
It mutes the sound or activates the sound. Yeah. So that's okay. I mean, if you need another preset with more complicated stuff, like a pitch shifter, or then you can change the preset.
And then the gap is not a big thing, because once in a while,
you can switch between the songs. Yeah. And even switching presets, it's the gap is not that long, but it's annoying sometimes.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we all want it perfect.
Yeah.
And therefore they invented the scenes, and you can work with it.
Yeah.
But I think it's good to know, people, some people have no experience with products. So then they expect something and then they're disappointed. And there is a reason for stuff, and there is a solution for these problems. And this is,
I mean, a 4-cable method, it's a new term. It's coming up some years ago, I think, with TC Electronics, when they...
the Helix.
The T system.
T system,
And it was the first device that used the term 4-cable method. And unfortunately, it didn't work as expected, because a lot of ground hum. Yeah, it was horrible. I can remember Frankie.
Yeah.
Frankie,
we all know we are talking about. Yeah.
Frankie. Hi, Frankie. He once called me and said, 3 Doors Down is on tour, and you're an expert for the G system, because they have problems like hell. They use the G system in combination with the Triumph, and they have hum all the time, And so I went there and I borrowed my so-called Eptech hum eliminator, which is 2 transformers in one device.
We have the plugs here with the hum things I brought yesterday. I show you. We have some stuff here as well.
Yeah, it's an isolated transformer.
Yeah. And then you can buy as like boxes, or in plugs. Yeah. Somewhere here in the room, it's lying from set up yesterday. Maybe we find it, maybe not.
But time went on, and these new devices, FM3, also Helix from line 6, and Boss, of course, they can handle the 4-cable method right now. I think from time to time there are some problems. I can remember the problems you had with the Helix line 6. And something were wrong with the first batch of the Helix, with the AMP1. Yeah, everybody thought it's the AMP1, but no,
it was the line 6.
Yeah.
But you have to understand that making loops for the 4-cable, especially with the input stage, is like high impedance from the guitar, almost no signal. There is so. You have to make super high quality connections and inserts for those devices, and anything that is not 100% will become a problem in some constellation. And I know how hard it is as a designer. A few products that you have in-house or close to you, but the market is full of hundreds of products.
Yeah.
So how can you tell that it will work with everything on the market?
Yeah.
And of course, I try to collect extreme things with tons of gain or tons of treble or whatever. And then sometimes I can double check that everything works. But sometimes some guy has a crazy device and I was not thinking about it and it does not work. And things like that happen. And especially when it's sensitive topics like inputs and stuff. But I'm very happy that Line 6 actually noticed the problem and fixed it. And that's a good sign that a manufacturer actually does care.
Yeah, yeah. So...
Yeah, so what's going on here? This is the AMP1 Mercury and it's the FM3.
Yeah, so let's check it.
With your guitar.
Yeah, so I think it would be a good idea. You play.
I play. Okay.
And I dial in the sounds.
Okay.
Okay, so this guitar? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, sure, I play whatever. What is it? A Fender?
It says,
Gilmore.
It says it's Fender. Yeah.
So okay, I know it's a faker.
But a pretty good one. So let's start from scratch.
Okay.
So for all those guys out there, I hope you know what a 4-cable method is.
Yeah, I explained this in the other episode. So using 4-cable methods is you have effects in front of the preamp.
Yeah.
And then you have effects in the effects loop of the amp, which means between the preamp and the power amp.
Yeah.
And you need 4 cable. One is the cable from the guitar into the input of the effects device.
Yeah.
Then you have the second cable goes from the loop of the effect device into the input of the amplifier. And then comes the third cable from the send into the effects processor again for the post effects. And then the post effects from the effect processor output goes into the effects return of the amplifier.
Yeah.
4 cables.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay.
So, you see, does the audience see this laptop? No.
Can you, or will it, maybe we can, like this?
Okay. Because I always use the editor.
Editor is
it's
important.
hard to handle this from the knobs in front of there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, this looks pretty cool. Yeah.
Okay. So in the upper row, you see input, of course your guitar, and the out. This is the pre line, and this is the post line. So
okay, the pre-effect line and the post-effect line.
Okay, and we have so let's switch to clean song.
So I can play.
So I turn everything off, everything. So
okay, but we are on the vintage channel?
We're on the vintage channel. So
okay.
I use your MIDI adapter and a MIDI cable, and I try to switch or learn the amp so that it switches to clean.
Okay.
So I try this without a net.
Sure.
With boost or without boost?
Up to you. Well,
okay,
doesn't matter.
So I will learn.
Yeah. Press now is MIDI learn, and now he sends. No, you have to switch another program. Oops, no MIDI.
No MIDI? Why there's no MIDI? Oh, I know why.
Yeah. The adapter goes into nothing. There's no MIDI. Okay.
There's no MIDI.
See, there is a reason for everything.
Yeah, we'll fix it.
Yeah. But this is good. We are experts. We know where we have to look for a problem. But I think, okay, this is... okay, so now everything is connected. Try again. So yeah, it works. It works.
Perfect.
Okay.
So we have, this is no effects at all. So what do you like to have?
This is
only the AMP1.
It's only the AMP1. That's a nice sound. But give me some. What is in there? Maybe a compressor or maybe a reverb.
Okay, let's start with the compression.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is an optical compressor.
Yeah.
You know what it means. So too much? Yeah, too much.
That's a bit too much. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This should work.
That's nice, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So let's move on to the post effect line.
Yeah, give me some reverb.
Reverb, of course. So what kind of reverb? This is a plate.
I love plates. Is it EMT140?
It's called Sun Plate. It's a famous plate from the Sun Studios. I don't know what does that mean.
It is an EMT. Because I own 2 EMT plates from our Saarländische Rundfunk here. I bought them from our local radio station. They used to be super equipped in the 60s. Yeah. And these plates got out of fashion because these are the real deal old plates. Yeah. And I bought 2 of them.
Where are they?
I gave it to other guys that have studios.
Okay.
If you want, I can tell you his is Marcel Sude has one, yeah. And the other one is in the garage of my father.
Okay.
And one is even with the tube driver, mono, and the other one in stereo. The stereo is in use. And I recorded every album of mine with that plate. Even the albums that I recorded at home, yeah. I took my dry tracks, recorded, drove into the studio, and recorded the real plate reverb and mixed that in my record. So if you want to have the idea of a real plate reverb, Electric Gallery is all plates. It's very loud on Electric Gallery, but I use it on every of my records.
Yes, anyway. Sir. What do you think?
Sounds nice.
Okay.
So, I mean, I could now doing that thing. Maybe I would like to have my AMP1 boost. Can you get? Okay. And just make it. Yeah, that's me. This is like a nice compressor and a little snappiness of that boost with that kind of reverb. That's me. You know?
Should we compare with the boost from the device?
Anything? Yeah.
Let's compare. Let's compare. Okay, a simple fat boost.
Okay. Yeah, this is more like a EQ boost. It is like too fat for me.
Okay. So let's turn it off and use the real deal.
That's my snappiness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. It feels great.
Any delay?
It's okay, whatever it is.
Okay, so let's save it.
Aha, okay, making presets.
Yeah, no, scenes.
Scenes, shit.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he's the perfect operator. He knows he's not making presets, he makes scenes. So, cool. So, what's the next? I would like to have, okay, if you ask me, I know you do a Pink Floyd thing too. Can you do the
big monster delay?
Yeah, come on.
Yeah. Here we are.
Okay. Okay, that's definitely
too much.
Yeah, pretty good. And I think we need a phaser for that.
Oh, preamp or post?
Pre.
Pre. Okay.
Do it pre.
Yeah.
Back in the days when Pink Floyd recorded that, they put the phaser in front of the amp and then used studio effects in the loop.
So, what kind of phaser? I mean, digital mono, script 45, script 90.
That's Eddie Van Halen. Try a small stone. Do we have an MXR? No, it's not MXR. Is it small stone?
They have different names.
Say some names, maybe.
Classic vibe.
Let's try it. Whatever. Let's see. That's actually not bad.
Okay.
Okay. Let's try another one, just for fun.
Let's go through the models. This one. There's a digital version, digital mono. Next one. Twin phaser.
Ah,
okay.
There's something of that swirl which was missing. Yeah, well, the delay is impressive.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
They have a setting here in reverb. The reverb now works on in the economy mode. They have super high quality, but then you can only use the reverb.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is, this is digital world. In the digital world, they always maxed out the processors. Every year you buy a computer that has double the power, but the software guys go, "Hey man, we have more power. Let's max it out."
Yeah. Yeah. So you see, my other board at home uses the Helix, and I liked this board because it has more buttons, at least 6. But I like the effects of the Fractal.
Yeah, super high quality. More. I'm impressed.
Far better.
Yeah.
So I mean, for example, let's switch this off and listen to the chorus. It's this one. Okay.
Yeah.
Chorus. So here.
Isn't that a chorus and a phaser?
Yeah, chorus phaser is in front of.
Ah, okay. No.
Get rid of.
Okay. Now we have just the chorus, the nice and clean chorus. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So now let's switch to another scene.
Yeah.
Here's scene 2. So when I switch to scene 2, you see here this block is called MIDI. So when I switch there, let's have a look here. You see here
it's a
PC patch
program change.
Program change 1 and 1, which means this is programmed for clean. So I switch to this one, and you see
it's now vintage channel.
Now it's vintage channel, and here you see a CC command, which means you have the full gain of the vintage channel.
Ah, so you use the control change command 20?
Yeah,
20 to dial in a special gain on the AMP1 for your next scene.
Yeah.
Not preset, correct.
Scene. So now you see phaser is on. Let's switch it off. Chorus is off. Put on a simple delay.
Yeah.
So when you go back to scene 1, you see reverb is on.
Ah, okay.
This is on. This is on. So the same setting is still on. Okay. Chorus. And then go back to no gap at all.
Yeah.
Let's try the CC command. Let's try the CC command. So here we are. 127, 80?
80, something less. 127 is full and 80 is less.
Okay.
So, and now we're... I'm on full here, see? So the gain disappeared.
Yeah.
It's a different tone just because of the gain.
Yeah.
and inspires you. So yeah.
So
next scene. Okay.
Okay.
We switch to the classic channel.
Yeah.
And the gain is up. We go back with the phaser again.
Put it off.
Yeah.
Switch it off. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, nice.
So, something missing?
Yeah, I mean, this is the editor is great because on the editor you have a clear picture of what you're doing.
Yeah.
When you probably do the whole thing on the display,
no chance.
The overview is not there anymore.
No. So, and the best thing is, look here, the scene. Okay, you have a scene, so you may say, okay, I only have one delay.
Yeah.
But no, you have 4 blocks of delays, which means you have you can switch from digital mono to another kind of delay, to tube delay.
Yeah.
So and the editor reminds everything you dial in here. So
that's cool. Yeah.
So you have per preset, you have each of these blocks have 4 variations.
So many options.
More
than you need.
More than enough.
Can I hear a tape delay in front of the amp?
Okay.
That's my personal check here. We have an expert, so challenge the expert. That's always cool.
Mono tape. So here we are.
Mono tape in front of the amp.
Yeah.
Now we're talking. Okay. I mean, it's not authentic, but I love it. I love this kind of...
We only scratch the surface. You see the parameters here?
Yeah.
I think you can spend hours only for the delay.
Sure. I will certainly do that because I'm a delay nut. I can spend hours with the settings of delays forever.
Yeah.
Okay, super cool. And this is like expression pedal?
Yeah.
And this can be, of course, assigned to whatever, delay volume or...
Everything. I mean, Frank Nimskan showed me a trick 2 weeks ago when you make a direct recording.
Yeah.
So let's do it. He took a pitch block.
Yeah.
So where's the pitch? So, and a classic whammy. So
and then you build your own whammy pedal, or?
That's easy. So
that's an octave up, right?
So you hit the octave, and now we have here the level.
Okay.
So in the mix. And then we control it via the
pedal. Okay. This is like blending in the
so when you play a single note, you have some kind of feedback.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. See, that's the beauty of the digital world.
Yeah.
Anything is possible, but you have to understand what you're doing. And I think you spent with gear a lot of time over the years.
Yeah, because when I was still at school, at the end of the gymnasium, age 17, close to 18, I had a chance to work in a music store. And it was one of those fantastic music stores with tons of used stuff in there.
Yeah.
You maybe know Bernd's Musikladen, Brandnew in
yeah.
Büchenböden.
Yeah.
It was always fun going there because you had everything, each and everything. I mean, I played each and every amp.
Everything in the store.
Yeah, and so, but when you're playing a cover band, you need a bunch of songs, and I don't like pedal switching. So I don't have a pedal board. I have maybe 2 pedals at home. I hate pedals.
Yeah.
So I need one button and everything changes.
Yeah,
I can handle other thing.
Sure. But I mean, you know, for me, it's like there's so many ways to deal with them. I'm still the analog. My pedal board is the AMP1, and I have analog pedals, and I have a pedal switcher for bringing in the noisy pedals, getting them out for other presets to get my amp just dry and stuff like that. So for me, that's my way. But it's always great to see that there are other ways which produce beautiful results.
Yeah.
And in this combination, you know, it works. It's really impressive. And, you know, it's kind of a nice and clean setup. You have to spend some time with the editing software, but it's okay. We got a question here from Ahmed Sünbül. What about the latency? Can you kind of switch from this setup in just no conversion at all, just like
true bypass?
Everything true bypass.
No way.
But we could use the guitar straight into AMP1 and then unplug the effects.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so let me play a little bit so I try to feel what's the difference.
Yeah.
A little latency is there. I don't know if you can hear that. So maybe you can hear the click on my vocal mic or speaking and the sound from... Okay, I try to... So, and now get the guitar straight in and unplug the effects loop. So we are... Okay.
Okay.
So there's no latency. I can tell the difference. But this is a thing you can adjust to. I mean, you know, if you play a system like that, you will adjust to latency.
Yeah, you probably feel it.
Yeah. I'm personally the no latency kind of guy, but you know, when you work with a system like that, one day you live in that world and it's okay. In the old days, latency was like all the way two worlds apart, and I felt like disconnected. But
I mean, a quadraverb.
Yeah.
The latency of a quadraverb. Oh my God.
Yeah, I have 2 quadraverbs because this was the time when I was using multi-effects and I could only use reverb like in parallel mode mixed to the dry signal, and anything else was not my cup of tea. Yeah. But you know, things get closer, and you know, also you have to know that if you are using in-ear monitors, your speaker is directly in your head, so you can actually afford a little latency. So, you know, I'm not saying latency is a bad thing. You have to decide what you want. I can feel there is a difference.
Yeah,
yes.
You said you can afford latency. That's a good point, because on my board at home, the AMP1 only board, there is a Line 6 digital transmitter.
Okay.
And I can afford this transmitter on that board. I wouldn't do a digital transmitter in front of a digital processor.
See, that's the point. I mean, you have a latency from one unit, and you have another latency here and there, and it all sums up.
Yeah.
I mean, if you play a camper, because many people play campers with a cable, it is still okay. But I played it with a wireless, and I felt like it's not working.
Some more 3 milliseconds.
Yeah, and then it's getting out of the range. So the point is you have to be aware of what works for you and where it's coming from. So this is why we talk about all that stuff, so you understand where stuff is coming from. And then there are combinations that work if you can live with it. And there's always two sides of the story. One
Absolutely.
of the, this is a powerful thing. It does a little latency. So if you have a digital wireless, be careful, you know.
But the overall latency from this device is about 1.5 milliseconds.
Yeah, it's pretty fast. But the wireless can go up to 3, 4.
3, 4, yeah.
Yeah. And then it sums up. And then there is a critical point. Anything higher than 5 makes me feel scared. That's me.
Then you have digital consoles. It converts the
the
input,
audio,
and the output is also converted and goes back to the monitor or in ear. So
that adds up too.
Yeah.
And this is getting
evil.
very very critical.
Yeah. I agree. There was one question. I can remember. Somebody wanted to hear the difference between this one in combination with the effects and then the amp only.
Amp models only. Can we do this?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so let's hear something.
So pay attention. So this is a JTM 45 jump model. So you see more treble boost, more normal boost. What do you want?
Yeah. This is like my 1 out 45. I need a little bit more high end. Give me, Mark. Yeah. Yeah. So it cleans up a bit. This is my cup of tea. So, and now we can compare this. We can compare this with the vintage channel.
I have to increase the volume a bit here. Play again, please.
Yeah. Oh, that's too much.
Yeah. That's okay.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So when I go back.
Okay, now we have no effects. Give me a little bit of that.
Sorry. So
this was our
delay.
Our plate from the AMP1. Now back to the model. Has a little bit too much bass. We have to, in the amp.
Okay.
Yeah. Give it a little bit more volume. I want to be fair.
Do you need a boost? Well, because the boost cleans up the low end.
Okay, nice. I would describe a thing. It's like, this sounds good. I mean, if you listen to the whole thing, it sounds good. It's the compression is there, the blooming is there, the frequencies kind of are there, but can you switch to the other amp again?
Yeah, sure.
Is it out now? Yeah. Okay, we have too much trouble on the other one. But maybe it's because I know it, but I feel, bam. This is like, this makes me connect a little bit better.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah.
But this is
more about a feel.
Yeah. It's, to me, it's more about a feel, and this is about me connecting with the instrument, and that's what I'm after.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying this is not good. It's just it feels different.
Yeah, maybe with a tube screamer in front of.
Yeah, but then now it's a different tone. It's like a honk tone.
Clean boost.
Yeah, maybe.
So.
I can feel the latency already compared, but this is. I would describe the strings feel a bit thinner when I play the digital model, but you decide. It's your cup of tea. But I mean, this is how it is. I think all the manufacturers, all the systems offer so many choices. I know what I want, and I try to optimize this to the max. And I come from the old world, and I try to get the old world in the most convenient form factor for today. And so for me, I would like to combine what I know with the modern world as far as I need that. That's my kind of philosophy. Other people, buy one of those units, go straight in a deal done. Fine, fair enough.
I mean, it's a tool. It's simply a tool. So, and every tool for different tasks.
Sure. So for me, the fun factor with the amp is a bit more, but it's as a tool. Sometimes, bam, it's all good. We have too many choices, and I think we've spent a lot of time today. We have 2.5 hours.
Oh my God!
Already. I think this was a very long episode with some technical issues at the beginning. I hope these were not too critical. Thanks for joining in.
Well, my pleasure.
And it is always great to see guys like you. I mean, we talk about in every half year about what's new, and it's so good to see what's going on, because you do your thing and I do my thing, and I can learn from your side. And we talk about cabinets, we talk about guitars, we talk about pickups, we talk about amps, we talk about anything, and that's always cool, because it's so refreshing to see your opinion on stuff versus my opinion. And I like to be challenged in a way, or rethink stuff, or get excited because you are excited, and so it's always inspiring to talk to people like you, like the tone buddies, and we stay in touch anyway. So
for sure.
So maybe there's a future episode, we never know. And I would say thank you for watching this very long episode and this very complex episode. But you all should have learned something, and stay safe, have fun.
And now for the beer.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.